Welcome to the Florida Gardener Podcast. I'm your host, Jennifer, and today is all about bugs. While summer doesn't officially start until June 20th, let's be honest, after the month of March wraps up, we know it's game over down here in the Sunshine State. The warmer weather can increase pest pressure in our gardens, but something we don't talk about often enough is how it can also increase the amount of beneficial predatory insects that visit our space. Today we're going to discuss my favorite predatory insects. But before we do that, let's discuss exactly what they are and why we want them around. Predatory bugs are a type of beneficial insect we use for natural pest management. Essentially, they are carnivorous insects that feed on other insects. I could just call them beneficials, but beneficial insect is a broad term used to describe any type of insect that performs valued services, such as pollination, pest management, and maintaining a healthy ecosystem. A monarch, for example, is a beneficial insect. However, they are not predators. They are pollinators. So I think it's important to recognize the difference. Not all beneficials are predatory, and not all predatory bugs are beneficials. It just depends. But all of the bugs we discussed today are indeed beneficial predatory insects. It's important to note that how helpful a beneficial predatory insect is in the garden depends on its life stage. Some are most helpful in their adult stage, while others are more helpful in their larval stage. More on this later. Now, the bugs we tend to dislike in our garden are the ones that damage our plants. These insects are herbivores. They consume plants by either sucking the fluids out of the plant or just straight up munching on the leaves. Aphids are sap-sucking bugs. They use their slender mouth parts to pierce stems, leaves, and other tender plant parts and suck out fluids. Mealybugs are sap-sucking insects too. Others, such as weevils and caterpillars, are considered leaf-eating insects. They chew on leaf tissue, consuming both the leaf's structure and its contents. So the goal with natural pest management is to have a healthy population of predatory bugs to eat the sap-sucking and leaf-eating ones. Okay, so now that we know a bit about beneficial predatory bugs and why we want them around, let's dive into some of my favorites and how to bring them in. Number 1 on the list is the hoverfly, aka the syrphid fly. I would say out of all the bugs, this guy might be the most underrated garden hero. And it's the first one that really made me appreciate beneficials and sort of lit this internal spark and curiosity. It was kind of a gateway beneficial for me, kind of. Funny because a lot of folks might think that the ladybug is like a gateway predatory beneficial, but the hoverfly is the first one I really got to see in action and appreciate. Adult hoverflies look like a bee or small wasp, and they have the flight pattern of a hummingbird. They hover in mid-air and dart quickly between spots. They can even fly backwards. Unlike a bee or a wasp, they don't have a stinger. These guys are harmless and really neat to watch. As adults, they feed on nectar and pollen. They are actually thought by some scientists to be the second most important group of pollinators after bees. But in their larval stage, they are an aphid-eating machine. Hoverfly larvae are very, very tiny. About 1 centimeter, they look like maggots with no obvious head and no legs, but looks can be deceptive. According to UF-IFAS, it's the University of Florida Institute of Food and Agricultural Sciences. Over its larval stage, which can last 12 to 20 days, a hoverfly larva might consume up to 400 aphids. And according to Cornell, a healthy population of hoverflies can reduce aphid populations by as much as 70 to 100%. While they primarily eat aphids, they'll also eat small caterpillars, thrips, and other small insects. So how do we bring these guys in? Adult hoverflies will seek out plants with an aphid infestation and lay their eggs on them. Last year, I created a small pocket garden using trellises to provide a sense of privacy. In front of each of the 7 trellises, I planted a Confederate jasmine vine. In a matter of months, all 7 vines were completely, and I mean completely, infested with aphids. So much so that although I don't usually use horticultural oils at home, I got out the neem oil and sprayed. And it didn't do a ton to help, I gotta be honest. Sure, it killed the ones that I directly sprayed, but there were so many. It would have taken multiple deep, thorough applications to really get it under control. And I just didn't feel comfortable doing that. It just didn't feel right. So I let Jesus take the wheel. And boy, am I glad I did. I had to be patient. That was the most difficult part. The second most challenging thing was being observant. We all notice a beautiful black and orange monarch fluttering through our yard, or a bee hard at work on a large sunflower. But how many of us really observe the small, teeny tiny bugs on a plant, especially when that plant is not in bloom? Just a ton of small green foliage. So as I do every morning, I got my cup of coffee and stared at the leaves like a crazy person in hopes that there would be some sign of help, something to come and destroy these aphids. And sure enough, Mother Nature answered. I saw that super small maggot-looking creature, aka the hoverfly larva, and I even had the pleasure of witnessing them firsthand eating aphids. It was so cool to watch. There really is so much happening in our backyards, way more than just birds and butterflies. Now, another part to bringing in beneficials, such as the hoverfly, is having a nice mix of flowering plants for the adults to enjoy. As I mentioned, the trellis garden is tiny. It's roughly 6 feet long by 6 feet wide. And even within that, it's not all planting beds. Part of it has pavers and a chair so I can sit in the pocket garden and enjoy it. Hence another reason for the trellises. Each of the 7 trellises is about 5.5 feet tall when fully inserted into the ground. I also added 4 hanging baskets inside the space using shepherd's hooks. I say all of this because the trellises and hanging baskets gave me the ability to add even more plants and flowers by growing vertically. I have a surprisingly large variety in such a small space, and I think this has helped increase the amount of beneficials that visit the space. To give you an idea, I have, of course, the Confederate jasmine, but also a stunning moonflower vine, Florida native tick seed, Florida native blanket flower, fleabane, another Florida native wildflower, beggar ticks, ornamental roses, salvia, sweet almond bush, cat whiskers, farfugium. I may be pronouncing that one wrong, but it's what I like to refer to as a terrestrial lily pad. That's exactly what it looks like, I swear. Mexican sunflowers, baby sunrose, and Florida native black-eyed Susans. I've also attached some orchids to one of the trellises, on the inside part of them, if that makes sense. And I also intentionally have a lot of leaf litter in the garden bed, serving as both a natural mulch and a place for bugs to hang around. Now you might be thinking, gosh, that sounds a bit busy and wild. It sure is. But I designed it in such a way that no one can tell. I live in an HOA community, so to anyone walking or driving by in my community, all they see is some trellises with Confederate jasmine vine. I have created a green enclosure, not only to provide myself some privacy while sitting in my pocket garden, but also to hide all of the many different plants and flowers that I'm growing, which wouldn't be acceptable to the average South Floridian who deems a healthy yard to be covered in sod, no shade aside from a single Robolini palm, and finish it off with a heavy dose of Roundup. And no, if you're wondering, I don't know anyone in Florida who thinks this way. And I've certainly never gotten in trouble with my board for pushing the limits on wildlife gardening. No, not me. But on a real note, I am getting in less trouble these days. Truthfully, I think I'm just getting smarter with my antics. All right, let's move on. So I did want to note that I've noticed the hoverfly bug the most in its adult and larval forms. I'm not for certain if I have seen the eggs yet. I watched an adult hoverfly closely the other day, and it looked like it was laying eggs, but the eggs are just so tiny, and they have not hatched yet, so I'm not sure. It's just interesting to note because you may notice beneficials more or less depending on what stage of the life cycle they are in, but it does not mean they are not around. Okay, so let's move on to the next beneficial that I adore. The green lacewing. In their adult form, the green lacewing looks like a damselfly. For those unfamiliar, a damselfly looks like a dragonfly, except a dragonfly keeps its wings open when it's resting, and a damselfly keeps its wings up and closed. So the lacewing does something similar to the damselfly, with its wings resting alongside its body or tucked in. Hope that makes sense. Okay, so the adult lacewing sort of looks like a smaller damselfly, with a long, slender body and transparent wings. There are many types and colors of lacewings, but the most common in Florida is the lime green colored lacewing, hence the name green lacewing. I have definitely noticed this bug the most in its egg form. It's so easy to spot lacewing eggs because they usually lay quite a few at a time, and they all have a slender silk-like string that the eggs hang from. And the string is usually attached on the underside of a leaf. So you'll just see all these slender silk strings hanging from the underside of a leaf. And then at the end of those little silk strings are the little white eggs. The very first time I saw the eggs, I thought it was some type of mushroom spore growing on the plant. They are certainly some of the easiest bugs to bring in, at least in my experience. I noticed their eggs all over the place. Even without trying, you can have them. I'll even see the eggs in monoculture commercial landscapes when I'm at work. The adult green lacewing feeds primarily on nectar, pollen, and funny enough, honeydew, which is a sugary secretion from aphids. It should be noted that some lacewings are predatory in their adult stage and will eat pests. An example is the brown lacewing. The brown lacewing is less common in Florida. However, it eats bugs in both larval and adult form. With that being said, the green lacewing is the most common lacewing in Florida, and it's not considered a predatory bug in its adult stage. Adult green lacewings can be difficult to spot, in my opinion. Most are active in the evening and night. The only time I have seen them is around dusk. Lacewing larvae are some of the most interesting looking bugs. They are often called trash bugs, and honestly, this is the best description. The bug itself is described as having an alligator-like appearance, characterized by a spindle-shaped body with well-developed legs and long, curved mouthparts. But honestly, you're most likely to see the bug carrying a bunch of quote-unquote trash on its back, hence the nickname. The trash piling up on its back is the emptied exoskeletons of its prey. Yep. So it sucks up the fluids of aphids and mealies and other bugs and then piles the leftovers on its back. How cool. I've heard it helps act as a defense mechanism. Scares off other bugs that might be interested in eating it. To me, it looks like the lacewing larva is wearing a type of shell on its back. Now, it should be noted that only the green lacewing larva will pile the exoskeletons on its back. The brown lacewing larva does not do this. I think this is especially neat to observe because you can tell what the green lacewing larva has been eating. For example, when they have been eating white mealybugs, the exoskeletons on their back are white. And when they eat aphids, the exoskeletons on their back are brown. A single green lacewing larva can consume a large number of aphids during its 2-week larval stage. Reports indicate that a single larva can eat anywhere from 100 to 600 aphids, according to Cornell, specifically their College of Ag and Life Sciences. And according to Penders, a nursery near me, a single larva can eat up to 1,000 aphids a day. This bug is extra special to me because it is the only beneficial predator I have been able to observe in every stage of the life cycle. Egg, larval, pupating a cocoon, and emerging out of the cocoon. I'll never forget seeing the lacewing cocoons in my podocarpus shrubs, and then one evening seeing an adult lacewing emerge from one of the cocoons. Its wings still small and crumpled up. Like many winged insects, its wings need time to inflate and straighten. The third bug on the list is the assassin bug. This guy is a little creepy looking, but they're really neat. I like this one because he's slightly controversial. He's not as easy to love as, for example, the ladybug. In Florida, one of the most common assassin bugs is the milkweed assassin bug. It is bright orange and black and is one of the larger predatory bugs we will be discussing today. Aptly named, these bugs stealthily creep up on their prey before piercing them with their sharp, beak-like mouth parts. Then they inject a potent venom that liquefies their insides. Then after that, they slurp up the liquid meat through their mouth parts, and there you go. Dinner is complete. Another common assassin bug species found in Florida is the wheel bug. It's a gray-brown color and has a crest that looks like a cogwheel or chicken's comb. Now, unlike hoverflies and lacewings, assassin bugs do not have a larval or pupal stage. It's considered an incomplete metamorphosis. They hatch from their eggs as smaller versions of adult assassin bugs, aka nymphs. Nymphs resemble adults but lack wings and are smaller. They go through several molts before reaching adulthood. Both the adults and nymphs are carnivorous. Some of the pests they eat include aphids, beetles, stink bugs, flies, and caterpillars. However, they can be a bit controversial because they are generalist feeders, meaning they don't discriminate, aka they also eat good bugs. They look at a monarch caterpillar enjoying some milkweed in your lovely pollinator garden the same way they view an armyworm or cabbage worm decimating your vegetable garden. Either way, it's food. I was struggling with a weevil outbreak on some ornamental trees at a job when I first encountered the milkweed assassin bug. The little leaf notcher weevil is a type of beetle. As an adult, the weevil eats plant foliage, and in its larval stage, it feeds on tree roots. At the same time, you can have damage occurring beneath and above the soil line, making this pest especially pesty. Watching the assassin bug stalk the weevils was incredibly neat. They really do hunt, as opposed to some of the other predatory bugs, which just kind of wander around and eat. Not to mention that this took place in a very urban environment, a garden terrace up on the 7th floor of a commercial building. The fact that the assassin bug even found these weevils amazes me. Before we continue, I have created 3 separate reels, aka short videos, for the hoverfly larva, lacewing, and assassin bug. In honor of this episode being released, and me being a total goob, all 3 reels are pinned to the top of my social. I'll leave them pinned for a couple of weeks, so head over to my Instagram, Facebook, or TikTok to check these out for yourself. The easiest way to access my social is to visit my website. Up at the top right of my website are all my social links. My website is Roots Redefined. That's Roots, ROOTS, Redefined, REDEFINED.com. Okay, let's move on. Ladybugs and praying mantids. So the 3 that we just discussed are probably my favorites, but these other 2 are definitely worth talking about because they're pretty neat as well. The truth is, many of the ladybugs we think we see are actually Asian lady beetles. They look very, very similar. Even I have a difficult time telling them apart. True ladybugs are native to North America. Asian lady beetles are native to, you guessed it, Asia. They are considered invasive here. According to UF, the multicolored Asian lady beetle was introduced from Asia on purpose for classical biological control of arthropod pests, and also on accident into the United States many times during the 20th century. It finally became established and quickly spread over the entire United States sometime in the late 1980s and early 1990s. By 1994, it had colonized the United States from Florida to Canada and from coast to coast. It's interesting because both our native ladybugs and Asian lady beetles consume the same crop and garden pests. During both their larval and adult stages, they eat aphids, mites, thrips, and scale. According to UF, as a predator, the Asian lady beetle is considered a beneficial for most of the year and has contributed to a decrease in pesticide use in orchards and other crops. The Asian lady beetles get a bad rap, though. because they seem to be more aggressive and therefore may outcompete our native ladybugs for available food sources. I have not fact-checked this or, looked a ton into it, but native ladybug populations are apparently decreasing. Now, of course, that doesn't mean it's because of the Asian lady beetle, but that's what I think they are inferring. That being said, I'm not advocating for raising and releasing Asian lady beetles. Their populations seem to be doing more than okay. And I know many folks have dealt with them inside their homes, and the smell they produce can be less than desirable. But if they are already here and want to dine on my aphids, I will welcome them with open arms. Okay, so let's chat praying mantids. I'm not gonna lie, they kind of scare me, but they're also equally as cute looking to me. And here I am humanizing this bug, but I've seen some videos of them, specifically people that have them as pets. But they're so intriguing. Maybe it's Kung Fu Panda 2 playing a role in this. This is the first one on the list that I haven't seen firsthand in my own garden or at a job yet. But if I do, I'll probably just keep my distance and let him do his thing. Now, for those curious, praying mantis refers to an insect that belongs solely to the genus Mantis, whereas a praying mantid is an umbrella term for all types of mantids. And according to Wisconsin horticulture, all praying mantids are predaceous, feeding on virtually anything they can catch, such as flies, beetles, crickets, moths, and grasshoppers. And larger species of tropical mantids will also eat other animals, such as lizards, frogs, or even hummingbirds. You guys, I can't even imagine seeing a praying mantid catch a frog or hummingbird. Nature is wild. Something I find especially interesting about praying mantids is they are supposed to be quite territorial. Other insects, such as ladybugs, will come and go, but from what I've read, a praying mantid will stick around, so you have 24/7 pest control. Also, from what I understand, our native ladybugs are actually not the best form of natural pest management. I suppose this makes sense. I mean, we probably wouldn't have introduced the non-native Asian lady beetle if our native ladybug was more aggressive. On the other hand, I almost think assassin bugs and praying mantids could be too effective. I really like hoverfly larvae and lacewing larvae. In my opinion, may change in the future, but they just seem to be the most effective at getting the job done, but without getting out of control. And I also don't have to worry about them biting me. Although it's not common, both the assassin bug and praying mantids can bite if they feel threatened. I'm certainly not opposed to assassin bugs or praying mantids visiting my garden. I also think it just depends on the size of the pest that you're trying to get rid of and the size of the outbreak. If you have a lot of large weevils, for example, or chunky worms eating your plants, then you need to bring in the big boys. I was talking to a guy that has a large tree covered in mealybugs. He said it looks like it's snowing. The entire thing is white with mealybugs. He's tried releasing ladybugs and lacewing larvae, and neither worked to control the massive outbreak. I think this is a great example of needing something more territorial and aggressive like the praying mantid. Okay, so if you're having a difficult time bringing in predatory beneficials naturally, you can absolutely purchase them. If you're purchasing online, try to find a reputable business. Ideally, we don't want to release a ton of bugs that are non-native and invasive. Native ladybugs seem to be the most popular for the novice. I think it's just the most approachable because it's the most familiar. If it were me, I'd look to buy lacewing eggs or hoverfly eggs. But once again, it also depends on the size of the pest you're trying to get rid of too. A local garden center near me sells praying mantid egg cases. Just one egg mass will hatch into 50 to 200 baby mantids. Once hatched, you just sprinkle them around your garden or place the egg case in a tree, bush, or hedge above ground level. They also note on their website that this is a native, non-invasive species of praying mantids, which I think is great that they highlight that. Now, at this nursery, they also sell green lacewing eggs. Each order includes 1,000 lacewing eggs mixed with wood shavings and moth eggs for early feeding. Same deal, it's a native, non-invasive species. And for anyone that might be in or near Martin County, it's called Pinder's Nursery. P as in Paul, Inders. And it's located in Palm City, Florida. I know for a fact that they are reputable, so I would definitely buy from them. Okay, let's move on from sourcing. It's very important to note that it is not the goal to completely remove a garden pest. This is why it's important to be comfortable with a few aphids and mealies hanging around. If you take all the food away, the predatory bugs leave too. It's all about balance. This is why it's important to try and not spray insecticides, but if you really must spray, avoid any blanket spraying of these chemicals and instead only spot treat specific plants. I also want to highlight the fact that the concept of beneficial is subjective. In agriculture, for example, where the goal is to raise selected crops, insects that hinder the production process are considered pests, while insects that assist production are considered beneficial. And the same goes for our garden. We encourage the monarch caterpillar to eat the milkweed we put out, but Lord forbid the polka dot wasp moth caterpillar eat our oleander plant. I say all of this because ultimately there is no such thing as a good bug or a bad bug. They all serve a role. It's more a function of what we are trying to accomplish. In my experience, your garden does not have to be 100% native plants in order to provide ecological benefits. There are many non-native and even ornamental flowering plants and shrubs that bugs and other wildlife enjoy. What I have found to be most important is, number one, diversity. Skip the monoculture hedge and lawn. And number two, limit the amount of chemicals we use in the garden. If something promises to kill garden pests, this means it's also killing beneficial bugs. And then a bird or a frog eats that poison bug, and so on and so forth. With that being said, dogmatism is never the answer, but we should try to push the envelope a little every day with regards to our tolerance of natural gardening. And one last thing. I was out with a South Florida wildlife guide a few days ago, and he pointed out the limpkin, which is a Florida native freshwater wading bird. They eat various Florida native mussels and snails, and in recent decades have started to feast on the non-native invasive apple snails that have somehow found their way to Florida. According to my guide, the limpkin population was actually on the decline due to a lack of its native food. But because the limpkin was able to adapt and learn to eat these invasive snails, the limpkin population is bouncing back. And as a bonus, this small brown wading bird is helping us manage an invasive snail species. How incredible! All I'm trying to say is sometimes even our native animals and plants can be adaptive and resilient. I love Florida native plants, and I have and will continue to grow them, but I also don't subscribe to the thought that all bugs and wildlife will die without them. Look, all I'm saying is I see rabbits eating blue days all the dang time, and I can tell you that isn't a Florida native plant. All right, so that wraps up episode 21 of The Florida Gardener. We will see you soon for episode 22. And in the meantime, if you'd like to subscribe to my free newsletter, download one of my Etsy garden templates, or check out my social, you can access everything through my website, rootsredefined.com. That's roots, ROOTS, redefined, REDEFINED.com. All right, thanks guys. We'll see you again soon.